Okay, so here we are in my track screen set with the raw recorded tracks, all the faders wherever they've finished after the tracking stage. MIDI tracks have been bounced, spare audio archived or deleted, and I'm left with a load of audio tracks ready for assembly into my latest masterpiece. I'm going to switch from the track view to the console view by pressing D. At this stage it might be a good idea to set any faders that have been moved during a tracking stage to their default positions. To reset a fader or any control to its default position, we just need to double click on it. The default position itself can be changed by setting the position that you want and then right-clicking and selecting Snap to equals current from the Value submenu. We've looked at quick grouping plenty of times throughout the videos, and it's quick and easy to use. But for even greater and more permanent groups, there are control groups. A group links multiple faders or other controls together. Almost any fader, knob or button can be assigned to a group, and while it's more usual to link controls of the same type, such as two or more pan knobs for example, it's also possible to link any controls, a pan knob with a volume fader for example. You set up as many groups as you want, and there's more control over the way controls interact together than there is with quick groups. There are several ways of adding tracks to groups, so let's have a look at some of them. Here are my drum track faders already set to relative levels, and I'm going to assign them to a group. First I'll select the kick to the hi-hat, and then right-click on one of the faders and select Group from the right-click context menu. Here you'll see there are already 24 groups set up, labelled A to X that can be used. Note that when a group's in use, there will be an asterisk beside the group name. Alternatively, for a completely new group, select New from the top of the menu. This will allow us to name the group and choose the colour, which I'm going to call Drum Main, and leave it as the colour green. Note that the controls in a group display the group colour to help keep a visual track of which control belongs to which group. A control can only belong to one group at a time, and as soon as you add a group control to another group, it's removed from the first one. One of the advantages of a group over quick grouping, there's no longer a need to select the tracks to use a control group. They can also be set up to have many members of a different type, and there are many uses for this type of grouping. Here I have two bass tracks that I want to A-B in isolation. This is easy to set up via a group. To do that, I turn on the mute for one of them and add the button to a group. Then I add the solo button, again adding that to the same group. Now I move on to the second track and activate the solo and add that to the same group as the previous one. Finally, I add the second mute button to the same group. So now I have four buttons all grouped together. When I click on any one of them, it reverses the effect on the other one, so I can jump from mute to solo no matter which button I press. I made that intentionally complex for demonstration purposes. Just adding both solo buttons in differing states would achieve the same thing. To remove controls from a group, right-click on one of the members and select Clear Group. Alternatively, I can remove just the one by selecting Remove from Group. That removes that one button, and the others remain in the existing group. Clearing the group makes that group unavailable again. As we've just seen with the mute and solo button, groups can be set up so that their members have a more complex relationship than simply following each other. Now let's look at an example of setting up a slightly more complex group. I'm going to use two guitar parts, the first one called Lead Dirty GT and the other one Lead Dirty GT FB. I want to be able to pan them opposite to each other, where one always mirrors the other position within the stereo field. We can use a group to make this simple. Right-click on one of the pan controls and add that to a new group. I'm going to call this Pan Mirror. Right-click on the second control and add it to the same group. Now I'm going to open the Group Manager. That's accessed by right-clicking and selecting it from the context menu. Pan Mirror is already selected, but any group can be chosen from here. New groups can be created here in a similar way to the method we've just looked at. Groups can also be deleted from here as well. Underneath that is the group members name list. This lists all of the controls currently belonging to the selected group with their start and end values. We won't be able to select these unless the group type is custom. Preserve mix between game members will maintain the decibel differential between group members rather than just the visual relationship. This is on by default. The start and end value boxes are used to set the respective values when using custom groups, and a swap button can be used to swap the two values quickly. Down the right hand side we can select the type of group. Absolute is a default type, and this means that each control in the group will be moved by the same amount in the same direction. Controls can start at different levels though. Relative means that the controls will move relative to the others, but not necessarily at the same rate depending on their starting points. They will also have the same level at 0, but may move at different rates relative to each other. We'll look at an example of that shortly. Custom can be used to create even more complex group, such as controls working in opposite directions, perhaps for setting up a crossfade where one fader falls as the other rises, or as in this case, setting up a mirrored pan situation. The currently selected group colour is displayed here, and the Attributes button will give access to the same dialog that's used for setting up new groups, allowing us to change the name and colour of a group. So let's look at this example using the two guitars. I want to pan them opposite to each other, with one always mirroring the other's position within the stereo field. As you've seen, I've already created the group with the two pan controls in it. It's called Pan Mirror. The group members' names appear in the name list. I'm going to change the type to Custom, and that will allow us access to the group members so I can change their start and end values. As we want the controls to move in different directions, we need to swap the start and end values for one of the pair. So select one of them in the name list, and then click on the Swap button and click OK. Now when I pan one of the tracks in one direction, the other control moves in the opposite direction. You can see that here. Let's make this a little more complex still. I want the pan settings for the two distorted guitars to increase as I turn up the centrally panned clean lead guitar track. I'll start by adding the track's volume fader to the group. We can see that the track's fade has been added to the group members, so we can now edit the group a little bit more. Call up the group manager again. The fader start and end values I'll leave as they are, but I want the pan for each of the other two tracks to move from centre pan to left and right respectively as the clean guitar volume increases. That means we need to set the start value of the pan controls to the centre position halfway between 0 and 127, which is 64. So we set both pan knobs' start value to that. Now I'll click OK and we'll see how that works. As I grab the clean lead guitar fader and move it up, you'll see the two distorted guitars pan left and right as the volume increases. That's OK, and the controls are moving in the correct direction. But the problem I have now is that to have the two dirty tracks fully panned to the respective sides, the clean guitar needs to be at maximum volume, and that's not likely to happen in a mix. I can adjust that by reopening the group manager. I'm probably never going to want the guitar much above half volume, so I'm going to set the end value for the gain at just under half, about 60. Now we'll see when I move the fader, the pan controls will move much quicker, and by the time I'm halfway up, they'll have panned fully left and right. Now let's look at setting up a relative group. Here I have two guitar tracks, and a fader is at a slightly different level. I want to add the faders to a relative group so that they'll both reduce to -infinity at the same time, but the left-hand guitar's level will reduce quicker than the right because it's at a higher value to start with. So let's start by selecting both tracks and then right-clicking on the fader controls and adding them to a group. We'll add this to group X. Now I can open the group manager again. X is already selected at the top, and I need to change that to a relative type of group. Now when I click on OK, we can reduce one fader, and the fader on the left will move much quicker than the one on the right, and they'll end up at infinity together. Conversely, as I push the right-hand fader up, the left-hand one will rise quicker and will reach maximum volume before the right-hand one. That's how a relative group works. You may be wondering if you need to change the value of one of the track's controls without affecting the other group members. Is there an easy way to do it? And there is. All you need to do is hold the control key down while moving the control. This temporarily removes the control from the group, allowing changes to that control group only. I'm holding the control key down, I move the right hand fader, and as you can see it removes from the group, and the left hand one doesn't move at all. As soon as I release the control key, it comes back into the group again, and they now function as a group once more. Because of this ability with the control key, you cannot use a control that's already grouped to quick group with. Hopefully that will open up some possibilities for you to set up your own groups for you to work with. As we start to mix tracks, you may find that the combined output into some buses will start to overload the bus so that its meters start to hit the red. The gain control on the bus can be used to control this. Let's have a look. I'll start Project Playback and then switch to my bus screen set. My guitar bus is peaking just under -1 dB. That's probably a little bit higher than I want it to be, so I use the gain control at the top here to reduce that. I'll drag that down by about 3 dB. Now if I reset the meters and start the project again, we should see that the meter is reduced accordingly. That's now near a minus 5 dB. As you start to mix the project, more and more starts going through buses, especially where effects are involved and gain gets increased. You'll find these gain controls very helpful. Now I'm going to get this mix into a little bit better shape so that we can look at effects, pro channels, etc. later.